Welcome back to Philosophy Unpacked. Today we're diving into a really profound chapter from Nietzsche's Thus Spoke Zarathustra called Involuntary Bliss.
That title alone sounds fascinating. It's full of contradiction. Where are we picking up with Zarathustra's journey in this section?
He's just left his friends and disciples on the Happy Isles and is sailing across the sea, feeling a deep sense of pain and loneliness.
So he's in a dark place, emotionally speaking. But the title mentions bliss, so I'm guessing his mood is about to change quite a bit.
Exactly. After 4 days at sea, he overcomes his pain and with a firm resolve, he accepts his fate and begins to reflect on his journey.
It's interesting that this moment of clarity happens while he's alone at sea. Solitude seems to be a major theme for him.
It certainly is. He notes that he is alone again with the pure heaven and the open sea, and he finds a certain peace in that.
And he starts talking about the afternoon, doesn't he? It seems to be a very significant time of day for him.
Yes, the afternoon is a powerful symbol for him. He recalls that he first found his friends in the afternoon, and then found them again in the afternoon.
What's the deeper meaning behind the afternoon? It feels like more than just a reference to the clock.
It represents a time when all light becomes stiller. It's a metaphor for a period of calm, clarity, and the peak of fulfillment in his life.
So it's like the high point of the day, when things are settled and clear. He even calls it the afternoon of my life, right?
Precisely. It was during this metaphorical afternoon that his own happiness descended and found a home with his followers, those open, hospitable souls.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It was the time his ideas finally found people who were ready and willing to listen.
This leads him to reflect on what he calls his children. It's really important to understand that he's speaking metaphorically here.
Right. He's not talking about literal kids. So who or what are these children that he sacrificed so much for?
His children are his followers, but more than that, they are his ideas made real. He calls them this living plantation of my thoughts.
So his followers are the living embodiment of his philosophy. The text says he couldn't find them but had to create them himself.
That's a key point. The creator, he says, looks for companions but realizes he has to shape them by sharing his vision and hope.
It implies that to find people who truly get you, you might first have to teach them your language and your way of seeing the world.
And this is why he feels such a heavy responsibility. He says, for the sake of his children, must Zarathustra perfect himself.
So his own personal growth is directly linked to the well-being and development of his followers and his ideas. It's a huge burden.
He even connects this to a unique idea of self-love, saying that great love for oneself is a sign of pregnancy, being full of creative potential.
That's an interesting take, being pregnant with ideas. He then describes his children as young trees in his garden, right?
It sounds like a safe, nurturing environment, but Zarathustra seems to have a more challenging long-term plan for them.
He does. He plans to one day take each one and put them by themselves, alone, to force them to learn some hard lessons.
Why would he do that? Forcing them into solitude seems cruel after they've grown together in a supportive group.
Because his goal isn't to create dependent followers. He wants each one to learn lonesomeness and defiance and prudence to become truly strong.
So they need to be tested by the storms of life on their own. He wants them to become like a living lighthouse of unconquerable life.
It's really about forging strong individuals, not just compliant disciples. He wants them to eventually become his equals, his fellow creators.
And for them to reach that high level, Zarathustra concludes that he must first perfect himself through his own final difficult test.
What is this final test he's talking about? It sounds like he's gearing up for something incredibly challenging.
He says he must now avoid my happiness and deliberately present myself to every misfortune. He needs to seek out hardship.
That's a very radical idea. Why would anyone actively choose to avoid happiness and look for suffering instead?
For him, this current peaceful happiness is a dangerous comfort. He believes that true self-perfection only comes from overcoming great challenges.
So this calm, blissful feeling he's having on the boat is actually a problem for him, an obstacle to his ultimate goal of self-overcoming.
Precisely. He's afraid that his love for his children has become a snare and that he might lose himself in them by becoming too comfortable.
He's worried about complacency. It's like an athlete who knows that easy training won't prepare them for the championship.
That's a great analogy. He even says he longs for frost and winter to make him crack and crunch, to feel the sharpness of a real struggle.
And this desire for hardship seems to awaken his past pains, which he thought were long gone. It's a very intense internal state.
It all leads to what he calls his abysmal thought. This is one of the most critical and difficult ideas in the entire book.
Abysmal thought. Sounds incredibly dark and heavy. What is this thought that he seems so terrified to confront?
It's the doctrine of the eternal recurrence. This is the idea that your entire life, with every joy and every pain, will repeat itself infinitely.
Wow, okay. So the ultimate test of one's strength is to be able to affirm life, knowing that every single moment will come back forever.
Exactly. He hears this thought burrowing inside him, and he admits he hasn't been strong enough to face it or even speak it out loud yet.
Right. He's feeling like he's been carrying this massive, terrifying idea, but he hasn't dared to fully unpack it and look at it eye to eye.
Yes, he says he needs to find the lion's voice to finally call it up. This confrontation is the final step to his self-perfection.
And if he can overcome himself in that moment, he believes it will be his ultimate victory, the seal of his perfection.
It all connects. So, back on the boat, he's experiencing this moment of involuntary bliss, but he sees it as a dangerous distraction from this necessary struggle.
He distrusts this peace, right? He compares it to a lover who's suspicious of a smile that seems too perfect or sleek.
A perfect summary. He feels this blissful hour has come at the wrong time because he needs to be preparing for his severest pain.
It's like he's shouting, I can't relax now. The final exam is coming up, and I need to be focused and ready for the hardship.
He even actively pushes this happiness away, telling the blissful hour to go away and find a home with his children instead.
That is an incredibly selfless act. He's sending the happiness to his followers while taking the burden of the struggle upon himself.
It's the ultimate gesture of a teacher and creator. He shoulders the difficult path so that they can continue to flourish in peace.
He sees the sun setting, which symbolizes the end of this peaceful afternoon, and dramatically says, away my happiness.
It's a very decisive and powerful moment. He has made his choice to embrace the coming struggle and reject easy, unearned comfort.
So after all this, he prepares himself for a night of misfortune, fully expecting some terrible trial to test his resolve.
And this is where Nietzsche gives us a classic ironic twist. Zarathustra waits all night for this misfortune, but he waits in vain.
You're kidding. After all that mental and emotional preparation, the universe just gives him a calm, clear night instead.
That's right. The night remains peaceful, and to make matters worse for his plan, happiness itself came nigher and nigher unto him.
That's actually quite funny in a philosophical sense. He's trying with all his might to be miserable, and happiness just keeps chasing him.
It is. So as morning approaches, he laughs at the absurdity of the situation and says mockingly, happiness runneth after me.
And then we get that famous and sometimes controversial final line of the chapter. Can you remind us what he says?
He concludes, that is because I do not run after women. Happiness, however, is a woman. It's a very provocative statement.
Okay, let's break that down. It can be a bit jarring to a modern reader. What is he really getting at with that comparison?
It's a playful, metaphorical jab. The core idea is that when you desperately chase after something, like happiness, it tends to elude you.
But if you don't chase it, and instead focus on your own difficult path of growth, it is ironically drawn to you.
Exactly. By trying to detach from happiness and push it away, he finds that it pursues him. It's a commentary on desire and attachment.
That's a very clever and witty way to end a chapter that was so full of internal struggle and serious philosophical weight.
It really is. It demonstrates Zarathustra's strength, showing he has the ability to laugh at himself and the absurdities of his own grand quest.
So, in the end, his grand attempt to force a confrontation with misfortune fails, and he's left with this persistent, almost annoying happiness. What a predicament.
It leaves him and us in a state of peace in uncertainty, distrusting the calm but unable to escape it. A perfect Nietzschean cliffhanger.